The Rumble Wrinkle is in full effect. Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle turning out on Thursday night. We got 3 games coming at you on Saturday. The Week 15 preview show starts now. All right. JM to everyone. Happy Friday. We've got Week 15 Rumble coming at you this week. Had an exciting Thursday night game last night with some big scores put up. That is definitely going to get this slate off to an interesting start. We've also got 3 games coming at you tomorrow on Friday. Definitely one of the more unique slates of the year. Pretty reminiscent too the Thanksgiving slate where we saw, I think, 5 players that played on the Thursday Thanksgiving slate that ended up in the winning lineup that week. So we'll be breaking it all down for you today. We've got fresh Kona coffee from Hawaii, courtesy of Yeah Baby, Jolly Joker holder, Discord member, active on Twitter. Shout out to Bo, aka Yeah Baby, for the Hawaiian vibes this morning on a cold Friday in Philly. Oh, yeah. There we have it. Let's dive on in. All right. Now, what we typically like to do to start things off is just check out the live scoring tab on Rumble to see how things went down on the Thursday night game. And this is probably the most significant start that we've seen in a while, where we have both Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle going for 25 points. At the tight end position, I mean, that's massive, right? George Kittle, I would say, is effectively a lock at the tight end spot this week. I think we rarely see tight ends score more than 25. If we do, it's pretty much only Travis Kelce or I guess Evan Ingram last week with his massive game. But George Kittle just kind of locked that in at the tight end position and arguably could say the same for McCaffrey at 25 points. I mean, I think locking both of those in and taking the free squares and moving on from there is going to be a pretty popular and sharp strategy heading into this week. So, yeah, definitely be checking out the 2 of those guys in particular. Also want to take a look at the Saturday slate and see how we can kind of get ahead of that, get prepared for that. I mean, first off, we've got another week of NFL all day playbook. Reminder that we released a new kind of checklist feature in the last week where you can go to the challenges tab and you can see a live update of your progress against each of the flash challenges for NFL All Day. So I know that the playbook can be a bit overwhelming. There's a ton going on in there. Make sure you're heading over to the challenges page on OTM to see how you stand, to see the low ask of each of the challenges, to see your completion against it, how much it would cost you as an individual to go ahead and buy the rest of the moments to complete the challenge. And this is available completely for free. So whether you are a Jolly Joker holder or an OTM premium subscriber or neither yet, you can look at this view for free and at least see your high level progress. You just can't click into to see some of the more detailed information. So there we have it there. And yeah, you can see up top here, we have all of the box scores. And so tomorrow night we have, or tomorrow throughout the day, we have 3 games. We start off with Indianapolis at Minnesota. Then we have Baltimore at Cleveland. And then we wrap things up with Miami at Buffalo. So definitely tons of implications here. Definitely some firepower from a fantasy perspective. I mean, absolutely firepower here. You've got Justin Jefferson playing for Minnesota and Dalvin Cook as well there. You also have Jonathan Taylor on the other side of that game with Indianapolis. Baltimore and Cleveland, not a ton to love there, especially with Lamar Jackson out and Tyler Huntley still starting. But you never know. You could see Mark Andrews pop off for a big game. You could see Nick Chubb pop off for a big game. So not as much to love there, especially with only an over-under of 38, which is about as low as we're pretty much ever going to see. But, I mean, then you have Buffalo and Miami. It's actually pretty low total here. I don't know. Is it supposed to snow or something? I actually don't know why that's such a low total. I would expect it to be larger than 44. But regardless, you've got Josh Allen. You've got Stephon Diggs. You've got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua. Plenty of options there in the Buffalo-Miami game as well. So I think it's a sharp strategy to go ahead and try to pick up these people before they have their big game, right? So let's take a look at George Kittle. Look, yeah, we got George Kittle in the last 24 hours. Both of his moments are up pretty substantially. And you can kind of see the spike happen right during the game. So, if somebody was kind of trying to play this optimally, one way that you could have approached it is you could have loaded up on some George Kittles before the game. When George Kittle starts to go off, you could then liquidate some of that position to take some profits and kind of break even at the start, and then hold some George Kittles back to use for Rumble, to use for the main event, to use for each of the Jolly Joker contests. So just kind of a breakdown there. I mean, this is like I said, definitely a super unique week in terms of the Rumble Wrinkle and the significance that it's going to have there. We knew that was going to be the case going in, and that's only become even more apparent now with 2 already locked in very, very good games from McCaffrey and Kittle, kicking things off for us on Thursday night. All right, now we're going to head on over to Rumble HQ. So if you own a Jolly Joker, if you're an OTM Premium subscriber, you can every week leverage Rumble HQ to see projections and breakdowns of each position as well as all of the players. And this is, pretty informative for setting up your strategy for the week, setting up the lineups that you want to put together. What do you have in your collection already? What do you maybe want to go ahead and buy on the marketplace, etc., etc. So at the quarterback spot, as we already mentioned, we've got Josh Allen playing on the Saturday game, so we'll know his exact result prior to Sunday. Hurts, Mahomes, Allen continues to kind of be that top tier of quarterbacks. I definitely think, common ask for Josh Allen, $9, right? So I think it makes sense to have at least one Josh Allen in your collection prior to tomorrow night's game. If Josh Allen puts up 30 plus points, you can easily just kind of slide him into your lineup and be ready for Sunday. If he goes under 30 or, 25 and under, I think is where it gets pretty close, right? Because now you're interested in Hurts, you're interested in Mahomes. The problem with these guys this week is that they have almost such good matchups that, they could just be absolute blowouts. So let's see. We've got Kansas City is a 14-point favorite at Houston. And then Philly is a 9-point favorite at Chicago. So definitely expect both of those games to be lopsided. However, as always, Hurts, Mahomes, they're going to be very involved in their offenses. And, not too afraid of the blowout, because if they blow them out, it's probably because those quarterbacks had massive games. Running back position. So we already know McCaffrey's in the house for 25 points. Pretty much a no-brainer there to lock him in if you have one in your collection. You can also go out and buy one for $11 to lock in a very solid 25-point game there. Austin Eckler, week in and week out, tends to be the highest owned running back that we see. He gets a matchup against Tennessee. The thing with Tennessee is that people love to throw against them. So it may not be as run heavy of a game plan. However, Austin Eckler is plenty involved in the pass game. It doesn't really matter what the matchup is or what the game script is. Austin Eckler can do a lot of different things, and he can score points in a lot of different ways. So Eckler will always be a top play on the slate. I think this week is no different. Like we said earlier, we've got Jonathan Taylor and Dalvin Cook playing on Saturday with the Rumble Wrinkle. They're two of the top, 8 or so projected running backs for this week. So we'll have more information on those. And yeah, I mean, it's going to end up being a week where we're going to see insanely condensed ownership. With McCaffrey already scoring 25, he's going to be at least 60% owned, I would say, if not more. He might even be more like 80% owned at that number. If Taylor or Cook has a big game on Saturday, you'll also see them skyrocket in ownership. So there's going to be an opportunity for leverage here. And I think it's an interesting week where if you're significantly behind in any of the Jolly Joker leaderboards, season-long leaderboards, this could be, a week to kind of take your stand and say, you know what, I'm going to fade McCaffrey. If Taylor or Dalvin has a big game, I'm going to fade them too. And I'm going to go with, Josh Jacobs or Derrick Henry or James Conner's been getting a ridiculous role. I'm going to go with one of these guys. I know that they are not likely to outscore McCaffrey. However, if they do, it gives me an edge on the field, because if you look at the season-long leaderboards for the Jolly Jokers, the people at the top, they're going to play McCaffrey. They're going to play Kittle. If Dalvin or JT is able to put up 20 plus, they're going to play those guys, right? They're just going to be doing what they can to maintain their position. And we cannot gain ground on them if we just play the exact same way. So interesting spot if you want to get a little bit fancy and chase down on the leaderboards. It also might just be too much equity to give up, quite frankly. It might just be that you have to kind of eat it up this week, maybe try to get different at your other spots. Especially, look, we got Justin Jefferson, Diggs, Hill, some of the highest scoring wide receivers for the entire season, as well as the highest projected wide receivers for this particular week, are playing on Saturday. And again, we will know their exact outcome. So again, I'd scoop up if you don't have a Justin Jefferson already. There's having a Justin Jefferson in your collection is pretty much a no-brainer. The guy's an absolute beast, monster performances week in and week out. All signs point to him being the first overall pick in all of next year's season-long fantasy drafts. So yeah, I'd lock in a Justin Jefferson before tomorrow's game, because I don't want to get holding the bag when he puts up another 30-plus point performance. And it's a pretty nice matchup for Minnesota in general, heading into Indy. Devontae Adams up against New England. New England never really the matchup that you want to see. Jamar Chase with a little bit of a iffy matchup against Tampa. My guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown at the Jets. I love that play, as always. Tends to come in a little bit lower owned. Keenan Allen. Yeah, it's going to be very wrinkle dependent, right? Between Jefferson, Diggs, Tyreek Hill, one of those guys is going to have a big game, would be my guess. So one of those guys is going to have a big game. They'll become the guy that's 60, 70, 80% owned. And then it'll just be kind of figuring out what the rest of the field is going to do from there. And how do we maximize against it? A.J. Brown. Love A.J. Brown. Always love A.J. Brown. Any week, you can just stack up Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, throw them into a lineup together. I would not play anybody from Chicago. I would just play the two of them, set it, forget it, move along. Anything deeper here? Waddle, someone to keep an eye on in case he has a big game on Saturday. You know, if you want to get a little bit off the board and play someone like a Juju Smith-Schuster with Patrick Mahomes or, Chris Godwin. He's shown some upside. Wide receiver is tough, but it's also every week when we do the review show, wide receiver is the one position where we tend to see the best plays, the guys that are really high owned. They can fail, and they fail pretty often. And then we see people that come in at sub 1% ownership that can get into the top 5 in scores. We saw it last week. I think we've seen it each of the last 2 or 3 weeks. Happens a lot more at the wide receiver position than it does at the running back position or the quarterback position. So keep an eye on those. Tight end this week. So Mark Andrews will also, look, tight end this week is going to play itself out. And it actually, it could create an interesting dynamic where Kelsey becomes the low owned play that you could get a little risque with, because we already know Kittle has 25. Andrews, Hawkinson, and Njoku, all 3 of those guys, they all play on Saturday. So after Saturday, we will know that they either scored less or more than George Kittle. So it's pretty much going to come down to, do you just lock in George Kittle, which is most likely the correct move given your situation, or do you want to try and go Galaxy brain and hope that Travis Kelce can, have another one of his 30-point performances or whatever it may be. And let's see. So yeah, Kelsey's been a little slower recently. 11 points last week, 8 the week before, 15. But as we see, week 11, 35 points, week 10, 20 points. He has that upside. He can score more than the 25 that Kittle is already locked in for. But it's tough. I would only do it, again, if I was in the Jolly Jokers contest and I was a little bit behind on the leaderboard and trying to make up some ground. That's where I would kind of draw the line and say, hey, maybe I'll try to make that move there. But even then it's tough though, right? Because it's the upside is pretty capped. Even if Kelsey does score 35 points, which is a super top end outcome, you're only gaining 10 points on the field. So, and by the field, I mean the people playing Kittle. Whereas, he could put up 11 or 8 and then you're losing 15 points on the field. Yeah, it could just be a week to just lock in Kittle, move along. Yeah, I really think roster construction is going to come down to okay, I'm playing Kittle, I'm playing McCaffrey, I'm playing one of Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, or Tyreek Hill, maybe 2 of them, depending on how they do on Saturday. And then I'm trying to get a little crazy with the rest of my lineup. So, say Jefferson and Diggs both do end up having a big game on Saturday. And, Jonathan Taylor, say, puts up 20 points. So a solid game there, right? You can play McCaffrey and Taylor and Jefferson and Diggs and Kittle, right? And now you've got 5 people filled out in your lineup. But then if you're going to do that, you probably want to get a little bit different at your final 3 spots. So, maybe instead of playing Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes, you go down a little bit and, you play Justin Fields. We've seen Justin Fields have massive, massive games. Or you play Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase. Maybe Jamar Chase then comes in at some lower ownership as a result. of some of these other big names having the massive games on Saturday, which, as we tend to talk about every week, comes down to that concept of leverage and understanding what the rest of the users playing Rumble are going to do, trying to get a feel for ownership percentages and how owned are each of these players going to be, and taking all of that in and saying, okay, when I'm looking at the projection and I'm looking at how owned this player is going to be, can I find any situations where the projection is high, the projection is strong, but for whatever reason, that person's not going to be played and the ownership is going to be on the lower end? It's key in any kind of larger field daily fantasy sports setup, and Rumble is no different there. So there we have it. I think we can do a little bit of a quicker kind of wrap up for today, but the key takeaway is really to be locked into the Rumble Wrinkle for this week. Lock yourself in a George Kittle and a Christian McCaffrey. Prepare yourself for the Saturday games. Go out there, pick up a Justin Jefferson, pick up a Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Josh Allen, right? Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor. Lots of things are gonna be happening on Saturday, and I'd rather have the optionality of having those players in my collection prior to the game starting. And like, they're all amazing players, so they're people that I want in my collection, regardless of Rumble, regardless of playbook. They're just like fun, exciting people where I want to own their moments. And then just a quick programming note for next week. So next week, with the Christmas holiday, like, every single NFL game essentially is taking place on Saturday. So next week we will lock on Saturday at 1 p.m. So just wanted to make sure that is out there. There's not going to be this like 90% Rumble Wrinkle next week. Next week will be the only time when we actually lock the contest on Saturday. So good luck, everyone. Enjoy some Saturday football. We're going to have some more stuff coming out in the next 2 weeks. We had a great little OTM team retreat this past week. So got together in person with the team, did a little bit of reflection on the year, did a 2023 planning session. Lots of exciting stuff coming, and specifically around the NFL playoffs. So again, more details coming in the next 2 weeks here as the season winds down, but we're going to be starting off 2023 with a bang. We're going to be the place to be for all things playoff football contests. We already know we've got our Rumble Jolly Jokers contest on the way. We are partnering up with Underdog Fantasy. So for those that are not familiar, I'll go share my screen again, but head on over to underdogfantasy.com. Underdog is really for me, it's become the most fun way to play fantasy football. They launched their big NFL playoffs contest, the Gauntlet. So how this works is that you do a snake draft with 12 people, or with 6 people in this one. So there's 6 people in the draft. You draft players, and then it locks before the playoffs, and you just get the total points throughout the entire playoffs, right? And so what becomes super critical there is how many games these teams are going to play. And we'll be getting a lot more into Underdog best ball strategy, and specifically the playoff contest strategy. We've got, Justin on the team, who is literally the guy for best ball. I think pretty widely understood to be the consensus best ball player. He was the inaugural Underdog champion. He had a top 4 finish in DraftKings big best ball contest last year. Really, really sharp takes there. So we're going to be doing a lot of streams in early January where we're doing Underdog drafts. We're talking about the strategy. It's really, really a fun game. So head on over to Underdog Fantasy, sign up with promo code OTM, make your first deposit, and receive a 100% deposit bonus match up to $100. So exciting stuff there. And yeah, that's really Underdog for you. Excited to be partnering up with them. Great company over there, great brand, fun games to play. And if you're not already signed up, now is definitely the time to do it. It's really the most fun to have for playoffs, and we're gonna have a little extra something for the playoffs. And signing up for Underdog is gonna help with that extra something. So sign up today. Again, underdogfantasy.com, promo code OTM. More details coming very soon on other options for playoff contests. Thanks everyone for joining me today. Have a great weekend. Shout out again to Yeah Baby for the delicious Hawaii Kona coffee. See you all on Discord. See you all on Twitter. Have a good one.